A mainland student in Hong Kong found dead after being injected with crystal meth at a party gathering. A warning from the health chief that more COVID cases could emerge next month. And Canada ready to pay settlements to 2 men previously imprisoned in China. Hello and welcome to TVB News. A mainland student who was taking a master's program in Hong Kong was found dead in a village in Fanling last week. Police said initial investigations suggest the victim joined a party in a village house where he was injected with the drug crystal meth. 3 local men were arrested. They face charges including manslaughter, unlawful handling of a dead body, and trafficking in a dangerous drug. They will appear at the Fanling Magistracy tomorrow. One of the suspects was taken to Fanling Y for investigations. A mannequin was used to help reconstruct the crime scene. Police received the report at around 8 in the morning on Saturday about a man lying unconscious outside a village house. Police later identified the victim as a 22-year-old mainland man pursuing a master's degree in Hong Kong. He took part in a party in a village house in Fanling Y with 5 other men. He was allegedly injected with the drug crystal meth during the gathering. Police said as the victim later fell into unconsciousness and was presumed dead, 5 other men allegedly carried the body out of the house and left the body in an open area. Police later raided the flat in question on the night of Christmas Day, that's the following Monday. There, 2 men aged 20 and 51 respectively were arrested with a small quantity of crystal meth seized. In the early hours of Tuesday, another 62-year-old man was taken away by police in Shengshui. Police said some of the arrested men acquired the substance, and initial investigations showed they were connected through a social networking app. Mr. Zhang, the villager who discovered the body, said the victim was lying face up with his lips, ears, and hands having become darker in color. Chang thought the victim had passed out after getting drunk and died because of the cold weather. He noted the victim only wore an underwear and a black hoodie at the time. The 3 arrested men were charged with manslaughter, unlawful handling of a dead body, and dangerous drug trafficking. Dr. Ben Zheng, former chairman of the Action Committee Against Narcotics, said, as drugs are not medicine, there are no set levels of safe dosage. That's especially for those with a more sensitive respiratory system and other congenital diseases. If they take drugs for the first time, even with a small amount through injection into a vein, they could experience respiratory or cardiac arrest. Dr. Benjamin Fong from the Department of Social Sciences at Nanyang College of Higher Education added, more education is key in preventing such tragedies from happening.
Those are drugs. They have some misunderstanding. So we need to have proper education to those young people to let them know this is harmful to their life.
COVID and flu cases in the city are on the rise, stretching capacity at emergency wards and public hospitals. Secretary for Health Lo Chong-mao said today that even more COVID cases could emerge next month. Mo Sang-ai reports.
For some residents, the Christmas long weekend was a challenging time. Public hospitals saw a rising number of patients visiting the accident and emergency departments, from more than 4,300 visits on the first day of the 4-day weekend to over 5,600 on the last day. Some patients had to wait for as long as 8 hours to see a doctor at some A&E departments. This woman came to visit her mother at the A&E department of the Prince of Wales Hospital. She said the cold weather made it difficult for the elderly. We are worried that she might have had breathing problems, so we admitted her to hospital, the woman said. Meanwhile, this woman thinks the colder conditions are responsible for respiratory problems among the elderly. The hospital authority said the inpatient occupancy rate reached 103%, but staff are still able to provide normal service. Speaking to the press today, Secretary for Health Lo Chong-mao said the city may experience a surge of COVID cases in January. Lo urged the public to get vaccinated as soon as possible, stressing jabs are effective against both flu and COVID. Minus 9 TVB News.
Hong Kong's residential property prices fell for the 7th consecutive month and marked a new low in 6.5 years. Latest data from the Rating and Valuation Department showed residential property prices were down nearly 2% in November month-on-month. Cumulatively, 2023 saw a dip of more than 5% in property prices. Smaller flats below the size of 430 square feet recorded the steepest drop with more than 7% of price decline since January. This real estate agent said the government's easing of property cooling measures have helped the sale of brand new properties. They include the latest stamp duty measures targeting eligible incoming talent. But as the secondary market relies mostly on local buyers, the real estate agent said a rebound in secondary home prices could only be seen next year when interest rates are expected to drop. The Housing Bureau will stop accepting new applications from hotels and guest houses to serve as transitional housing. Some groups running the pilot scheme said the government is ignoring the dire needs of those waiting for a public housing unit. The scheme that subsidizes the use of hotel rooms as transitional housing was rolled out in 2021. A total of 9 projects were approved, offering 816 rooms. Ng Wai-tong of the Society for Community Organization, or SOCO, which runs one of the projects, said priority for public housing units is given to the elderly, and it usually takes years for non-elderly single applicants to be allocated a flat. Also supporting the continuation of the scheme is lawmaker Scott Learn. He said that apart from hotels and guest houses, the government should consider repurposing industrial units and turning them into transitional housing to help single people obtain a roof over their head. According to Canadian newspaper The Globe and Mail, Canada's government is willing to sign off on multi-million-dollar settlement packages for Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig to compensate them for the near 3 years they were incarcerated in Chinese prisons. Daniel Rao reports.
The Globe and Mail reported, citing government sources, that federal lawyers are in compensation talks with the 2 men who were detained in 2018 and are hoping to conclude financial settlements early in the new year. The outlet said Canada was concerned by a potential lawsuit from Spavor that could put a spotlight on a government security reporting program. The Globe and Mail added the Canadian government has offered around 3 million Canadian dollars to each, but Spavor's lawyer sought 10.5 million Canadian dollars, alleging gross negligence on how Ottawa handled security reporting operations in China. The Globe and Mail said the government was not prepared to offer 10.5 million and that it was going to make the same offer to both men. Spavor and Kovrig were taken into custody in China in December 2018, shortly after Canadian police detained Meng Wanzhou, the chief financial officer of Chinese telecoms equipment giant Huawei Technologies Co. Limited, on a US warrant. Spavor was charged with spying for a foreign entity and illegally procuring state secrets. Kovrig was charged with illegally procuring state secrets. Prior to his arrest, Kovrig was working for the International Crisis Group out of its Hong Kong office. He had previously worked for the United Nations and as a Canadian diplomat. Spavor had been a consultant and the director of an organization that promotes investment and tourism in North Korea. Spavor alleges he was arrested and imprisoned because he unwittingly provided information about North Korea to Kovrig that was shared with Canadian and other Western spy services. China had detained the 2 Canadian men for more than 1,000 days before they were released in 2021. On the same day, the US Justice Department dropped its extradition request for Meng and she returned to China. Canada and the United States say that the detention was illegal and arbitrary, an accusation that China has repeatedly denied. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing did not comment on the matter in its daily press briefing. Dan Roll, TV News.
Israeli forces are expanding their ground offensive into urban refugee camps in central Gaza after bombarding the crowded Palestinian communities and ordering residents to evacuate. This as Hezbollah in southern Lebanon continues to exchange fire with Israeli forces. And Yemen's Houthis threaten shipping lanes in the Red Sea and Sea of Aden. Top Israeli official Ron Dermer, meanwhile, met U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to discuss post-war Gaza. The United Nations appoints the Netherlands' former Deputy Prime Minister to oversee aid to Gaza. Nasvi Karim has more.
Israeli Defense Forces armored vehicles and troops moving into central Gaza in search of Hamas hideouts. IDF soldiers from Division 36 operating the Shijaya district of Gaza City in the north. More footage from the IDF showing what they say is a missile fired from Lebanon hitting a church. Israel is digging in for a long haul in its goal to root out Hamas from the Gaza Strip. But the specter of war is increasingly casting its shadow beyond Israel's borders, with Iran-backed Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen threatening to raise the stakes. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said they were fighting a multi-front war. And in what appeared to be a warning to Hezbollah, he said what we did in Gaza can also be done in Beirut. Even as Israel says it could take months to defeat Hamas, the post-war Gaza landscape is already being planned. Hamas spokesman Osama Hamdan accused the US of hypocrisy, saying they are asking Israel to scale back its assault while providing the weapons that have so far killed almost 21,000 people. The United Nations, meanwhile, has appointed the Netherlands' former Deputy Prime Minister Sigrid Kaag as coordinator for humanitarian aid in Gaza. The appointment comes in the back of last week's UN Security Council resolution to speed up humanitarian aid to 2.3 million people in Gaza who have gone almost 12 weeks struggling for food, water, fuel, and medical supplies. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said Kaag, who starts on January 8th, speaks fluent Arabic and 5 other languages and brings a wealth of experience to her new post. Gaza currently receives 10% of the essential supplies needed to sustain the population. The UN stance on Gaza, though, has been criticized by Israel.
For too long, international officials have been deflecting blame onto Israel to cover up for the fact that they are covering up for Hamas.
Government spokesman Eylon Levy said Israel would no longer grant automatic visas to UN employees, accusing the world body of being complicit partners in Hamas's tactics. He said visa requests from the UN would be considered on a case-by-case basis. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi militia has claimed responsibility for a missile attack on a container ship in the Red Sea, as well as an attempted drone attack on Israel. The Israeli military released footage of what is said was a hostile target sent from a Houthi-controlled area of Yemen being destroyed by a fighter jet. The Houthi said it has sent drones in the direction of Eilat and other parts of Israel. Spokesman Yahya Sarria said the Houthis also attacked an MSC United container ship in the Red Sea with missiles. The ship en route from Saudi Arabia to Pakistan took evasive action, according to MSC Mediterranean Shipping, which said no one was injured. In solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza, the Houthis have vowed to continue attacking vessels linked with or stopping in Israel. Indian security teams are investigating Tuesday's blast near the Israeli embassy in New Delhi. Authorities said all staff are safe and unharmed after the explosion, which occurred around 5:20 p.m. local time. Israel's foreign ministry said Israeli authorities were cooperating with their Indian counterparts to look into the cause of the explosion. An official from the local fire department said they had yet to find anything in their search operation. Israel has urged its citizens in India, especially in New Delhi, to exercise caution. Israel's National Security Council said in a statement that the explosion may have been an attack. In January 2021, a small bomb went off near the Israeli embassy in New Delhi without harming anyone. Still ahead, Ukraine hits a Russian warship in Crimea. In South Korea, an actor best known for his role in the film Parasite found dead. And more frequent high-speed trains going between Hong Kong and Futian in Shenzhen starting January 10th. Welcome back. Ukrainian warplanes damaged a Russian ship in Crimea, bolstering Ukrainian morale after battlefield disappointments and doubts about the future of Western aid. The planes fired guided missiles at the landing ship Novocherkassk, which is moored at a base in the city of Feodosia. Ukrainian authorities claimed the ship was destroyed. They said it was likely carrying ammunition and possibly drones. This comes as one person was killed after Russian forces sent dozens of attack drones over Ukraine in their latest overnight airstrike. The Ukraine Air Force said 32 of 46 Iranian-made drones launched by Russia have been shot down. Most of the rest struck near the front line, mainly in the southern Kherson region. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Army Chief General Valery Zaluzhny said he was not satisfied with the work of military draft officers that are responsible for mobilizing troops to keep up the war effort against Russia. Zaluzhny spoke a day after Ukraine's parliament published a text of a draft law containing reforms to the army draft program, including lowering the age of men who can be mobilized to 25 from 27. Meanwhile, in South Korea, actor Lee Sung-kyun, best known for his role in the Oscar-winning film Parasite, was found dead by authorities at a park. Seoul authorities found Lee in a search triggered by a report that he had gone missing. The 48-year-old was being investigated over accusations of illegal drug use. Police questioned him 3 times, with one session lasting 19 hours over the weekend. Lee was found in a car at a park after his manager told police that the actor had left home, leaving an apparent suicide note. The movie Parasite was the first non-English language film to win Best Picture in the 2020 Oscars. It was also the first South Korean movie ever to win an Oscar. An update on Monday's car crash in northern Guangdong province involving 3 Hong Kong residents. One of them died and 2 were injured. A mainland hospital spokesperson said today the 2 injured Hong Kongers remain in serious but stable condition, and both are conscious. The Musang reports.
This is the Yubei's People's Hospital in Xiuguan, Guangdong. The 2 injured Hong Kong residents were transferred to the hospital on Tuesday night. Both patients are in the intensive care unit. A senior medical officer of the hospital, Yin Wenhua, said the 2 patients are conscious with multiple internal injuries and bone fractures. They have to stay in the hospital for a period of time for treatment and observation. The doctor also said a multidisciplinary team has been formed to assist with the treatment. He added that the hospital will transfer the patients back to Hong Kong if they so request, but it all depends on their recovery process. The fatal car accident happened on Monday afternoon in Lechang, a county-level town in Xiuguan. 3 Hong Kong residents, a couple and a younger sister of the wife, were inside a mainland-licensed private car along with 2 mainlanders. They were heading to Hunan province. When the car was overtaking another vehicle, it crashed into an oncoming car on the opposite lane. The wife died in the accident. Authorities said the 2 drivers passed their breathalyzer test. Yemens Hodeidah, TVB News.
More than 4 million people traveled in and out of Hong Kong over the Christmas holidays. Over the previous 4 days, 2.1 million people left the city, while nearly 2 million entered the SAR. The tourism sector is pleased with the number of visitors and is confident countdown activities and fireworks on New Year's Eve would attract more tourists. But the Hong Kong Retail Management Association says some of its members noted the consumption power among tourists is weak. Its chairman Annie Yao Tse hopes for more collaboration between the retail, food and beverage and tourism sectors. Starting January 10th, the high-speed rail will increase train frequency between West Kowloon and Hong Kong and Futian and Shenzhen from 74 to 98 a day. The MTR Corporation said it hopes the move will further facilitate cross-border and business travel. The last train from West Kowloon to Futian will also depart later at 11 p.m. The last train from Futian to West Kowloon, meanwhile, will leave at 10:31 p.m. The last train departure time from Guangzhou East to West Kowloon will also be extended to 8:50 p.m. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.